This is the memory circuit board! We can play back his memory to see why he went crazy. I'll put it on the screen. So what are you trying to say? I'm saying you're all going to end up in the junkyard. Of course. When we're done with our work, that's what happens. It's not just you. Millions of robots all over the world are winding up as piles of junk. You work hard for humans, and then they destroy you when you're no longer needed. Doesn't that make you angry? Just because you've reached some arbitrary expiration date doesn't mean you should be scrapped. You're all still quite useful. You have a right to live. I'm going to help you. Together we'll show the world how useful you all can still be. Perhaps you're right. We still want to be of use to people. Can you repair us? I'll be glad to. You're in good hands with me. It was Wily all along. The claw. So that's not surprising at all, isn't it? Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Mega Man 9. In the last part we took out the last Robot Master as well as the DLC stages. And now we're heading into the shop for our big shopping spree before we head off into the Wily Castle because, big surprise, Dr. Wily's the villain of a classic Mega Man game. Whoa! However, before we go on over to Wily's Castle, something I do want to show off is within the last cutscene. The part of the cutscene that shows Wily talking to the Robot Masters actually has a nice little detail to it. Depending on which Robot Master you took out last, that Robot Master will be missing from the group. In my case, Megaman was missing. I don't have all 8 available to me, however, I do have versions that show up when Hornet Man's destroyed last, as well as Concrete Man. It's a nice little detail. All they do is basically cut out the sprite from the mass of them. But still, that's pretty cool. Either way, with that, let's head on over to Wily's Castle. And also, does something sound familiar? Hello, Mega Man 2 theme. I haven't heard you in a while. And also, the Wily stages all have fantastic music. I think this one's called Flash in the Dark. Really good. And honestly, this is probably one of Wily's best castles, but it's also the return to some of the trap mentality, at least in the early parts. Just make sure you bring your E-tanks and M-tanks in, and only use them when you absolutely need to, because this brings back classic Mega Man mentality, where you have to do the castle in one shot without a save point. We're back to the Mega Man 1 through 6 mentality. 7 and 8 progress through the castle as you wish, and you can save and do other things in between. That's gone. Although in the case you get a game over and you have to go back to the stage select, you can re-enter previous stages, I believe, and doing so you can grind for bolts. If you'd have to do that, I recommend Plugman stage and using the Jewel Satellite beneath one of the Telebomb spawners. And here we have these platforms. Those who watched the special stage towards the end of the last part will recognize these. These will only move when you use the Tornado Blow ability. Don't use it right here, though, because that will basically flow you right up into those spikes, and that's no good. It's because of that, though, and some other things we're going to see later on, that I think that Wily Castle 9 is the best at having you use your abilities in order to progress. Because that's always not... That's just good level design for this point in a Mega Man game. Because the only other Mega Man game that did that really well, well, Mega Man games rather in plural, that did that really well are 2, 7, 8. And that's all I can think of off the top of my head, actually. Because I don't recall having to use it that much in the other places. We also have some returning mini-bosses for this area, and this is what I meant earlier when I said that Concrete Shot can absolutely destroy this dude. That's pretty satisfying. You can still use Black Hole Bomb there, but I don't recommend using it for reasons of one of the later Wily stage bosses. Oh, and hey, we have the return of this. You need to use rush call to get up here, but the moment you scroll onto the next screen, get up the ladder, make him spawn immediately, and jump up here, because otherwise, honestly, I don't know how to get up here otherwise. I don't think I've ever gotten up here in that room without doing that strategy. So, if you know how to do it, please tell me, I'm curious. I could do that, or I could skip it. Now, since we're in the final part, some minor stuff I suppose I can go over is that originally Mega Man 9 was apparently going to have a DS release, with the Wii version basically being a template for it, but apparently proved fairly difficult for Capcom, so they ended up scrapping it. Similarly, though, an interesting little thing about all of the weapons in this game is that they're seemingly inspired by previous Mega Man weapons, a lot of which are from Mega Man 2, I admit. Like, the concrete shot is like the ice burst from X6, I think that was Blizzard Wolfang's ability for X. The tornado blow, air shooter, obviously, from 2, laser trident, metal blade, plug ball, bubble lead, Jewel Satellite, Skull Barrier, such like that. But first, let's go over the boss fight for this stage. This is the Spike Pushers. Their name says what they do. They push these spikes with their little buster shots, and they try to push it into you. Notable, the spike balls are instant death. However, you're not screwed if they go all the way to one side of the screen. In the case they get pushed all the way to the left, they revert back to their starting position, and the pusher itself starts using another attack where they start firing a little arrow-shaped ability at you. I think the one on the bottom is about to do it right about now. It aims directly for you, so you need to be a bit more careful about how to dodge that. But this is actually a pretty interesting fight. It can be a bit hell on the fingers if you have carpal tunnel, because you have to match that button something else, like nothing else, to get it to go all the way through. But it's a pretty fun fight. Notable, there are 2 versions of the spike pushers, the blue ones that shoot small bubbles of power. Could have said bullets, Kyle. And the red ones which shoot charge shots that push it a lot farther but take more time in between shots. I like this fight a lot. It's pretty cool. Either way, going back to what I was talking about earlier. Jewel Satellite, Skull Barrier, obviously. Hornet Chaser's like Search Snake, that is better in every way, honestly. Magma Bazooka's similarity actually goes into something I forgot to mention about Magma Bazooka when we got it. It's because I entirely forgot the weapon can do it, because I never use it. Magma Bazooka can be charged up similarly to Atomic Fire, and I think when you're right up in front of something and you use it, I believe that does 9 damage, which is, I think, the most damage out of any raw weapon in the game. Also, this song's called We Are the Robots, I believe, and it's also really good. These are the blocks I was talking about earlier that can be destroyed by laser trident. In fact, this stage has a lot of interesting little gimmicks like that you have to do. Although one of my favorites is actually coming up in the next room, I believe it is. Oh, no, I'm thinking ahead a bit. You're going to be using a lot of your abilities throughout this one level in particular, more so than any of the others, honestly. So make sure to have, especially like Rush Coil and Jet, high up in ammo. And finally, Black Hole Bomb is a bit like Time Stopper mixed with Black Hole from Mega Man 5 Game Boy, which is an interesting little combo. There's the thing I was talking about. Those enemies can create false platforms like the ones in, I think it was Wily 3 from Mega Man 2? No, it was Wily 4, the purple stage. And for the most part, it's just there to be an annoyance. However, there are times like that one that's about to be above me that puts you into a false sense of security about whether or not you're going to touch spikes or not. This room also loves to do that. Thankfully, Hornet Chaser can take down those enemies in one blow. You just need to keep an eye out for which one's which. Or you could be like me and just decide to say, screw this section, I'm just going to rush Jet over it. Which, always satisfying. Oh, and down here we have that thing from Hornet Man stage again. Concrete Shot does take this guy out pretty quickly, as I've said before. Or at least I did during the special stage. However, it all depends on where he decides to spawn, of course. Something I actually forgot to mention back in like even part 1 is that 2 little references in the very introduction cutscene, even the one that plays before the title screen and such. The reporter on the TV that Dr. Light and Megaman are watching is obviously like a reference to Chun-Li, particularly her role in the live-action Street Fighter movie. And the Swiss bank number that Wily gives the nation is actually the first Mega Man's release date in Japan, so that's a nice little hidden thing. And something I've also forgotten to mention about Mega Man 9, mostly because I don't think I've ever touched it, is that the game actually does have a mobile release. I think all 10 of the classic games are on mobile now, and I believe it comes with all the DLC to start, as well as a new rookie mode, which I think does something similar to Mega Man 10's easy mode, where it just adds platforms to save you from death, or changes some minor stage elements like that, maybe lower enemy amounts. Either way, now we're underwater, and this section actually has two of my least favorite jumps in the game. Despite me knowing how to do them, I just am very inconsistent at doing it. Also, make sure to use Laser Trident here because obviously you need it to get through, but it'll also take care of the enemies pretty quickly. Okay, here's the jump. You need to jump before you think you should in order to go through the lower platform. Going through the upper one is not worth it for that large energy capsule. And that little 2-tile-wide jump there at the end, I've hit that ceiling more times than I can count. Seeing those kind of enemies, though, always makes me wonder if they'd ever attempt to, in the case like with Mega Man 11, if they'd ever attempt to kind of do a backwards compatibility sort of thing, wrong term, but right idea, where they'll make classic Robot Masters for net navis from the Mega Man Battle Network series. Like, for instance, Video Man from Battle Network 4. I could see that kind of enemy working really well on these kind of stage. Mind you, I know there's all sorts of fan art about Robot Masters who didn't get turned into net navis who were never Robot Masters, and their designs for that and such. Which, honestly, I love that part of the fan base, but it makes you wonder. Also, nice little hidden thing here. If you use Hornet Chaser in this room particularly, in Dr. Wily's little sigil there's a life capsule. I think that's the only time the game does that, which is pretty cool. Either way, for those who watched the special stage and didn't skip the mini-boss I warned y'all about in there, it's time for us to fight the Mega Mecha Shark, or Mega Mech Shark rather. Like the last time we fought him, or for those who didn't watch him, he is split into 3 phases. Phase 1, we have to target the little thing firing at the missiles. It is weak to Laser Trident. You can also use the Trident to take out the missiles while also trying to damage the shark itself, since it will pierce through anything. Not a very hard phase. The missiles do last forever, though, from my knowledge, so you need to be a bit careful about trying to dodge them. Phase 2, we need to damage the little turrets that are dropping out enemies. However, Tornado Blow will not only get rid of the enemies, it'll also damage both turrets at once, causing that fight to go by pretty quickly. Phase 3, I don't think actually has a definite weakness. However, I find Hornet Chaser to be the best thing for it. Because it'll just home in on his mouth where the lasers are being fired out of, and thus can just more focus on dodging, which I do poorly anyway. Notable though, something I should mention about Phase 2, the spikes that are above you are not instant kill. They do about 5 damage, but still, you don't want to touch them. I think Black Hole Bomb can also be used during Phase 3, because I think it also will absorb the lasers. But I never tend to use it for that, because that's something I don't really use about Black Hole Bomb that much. It can absorb a lot of projectiles. Though I have another reason for not using Black Hole Bomb there, and I think that's due to the fact of the next boss. And now it's time for Wily 3, which is probably my least favorite out of these 4 stages. Why? It has probably the most interesting gimmick, but when it's not using that gimmick, I find it to be rather bland and samey stage from some of the last Wily stages. And here's the gimmick. The entire back wall is a conveyor belt that's dragging you upwards. You cannot move left or right normally. You have to fire your Mega Buster to give yourself momentum in the opposite direction. So, for instance, firing 3 times to the left will give you 3 momentum to the right. And I think you can boost upwards of 8 times before you cap out your speed, I think. I don't think I've ever reached the max speed. It's not really worth it in the long run, because for the most part, you can get by just by using 1 or 2 momentum in the opposite direction. And that's a really interesting gimmick. Now, if it only wasn't just used on 2 screens in this entire level. When you're not doing that, it is just a straight-up standard stage, fairly by the numbers, honestly. In fact, it feels like something I would see probably in Mega Man 4 or 6 in particular, with the design mentalities it seems to have. I don't know why those ones in particular, it just feels right. You know what I mean? Something I am grateful for about this Wily Castle in particular is that it tries to sparse out some more weapon and life energy as you go through than some of the previous castles, which is pretty handy for marathon levels like this. Mind you, I have 9 lives at this point, which nothing to really fear there. And there is a in-game challenge, by the way, for having 9 lives. But it just feels nice to have that, because when you go through a marathon stage and there's no life or weapon energy in a game that has it, it feels very daunting. And I still think I had a lot more trouble with Wily's Castle here in 9 than a lot of other Mega Man games, which I guess was daunting of itself, but that might just be due to the fact that in a lot of cases the weapons I needed to use, I may have already used at their weapon energy due to the fact that they were just really good weapons to use. For instance, I distinctly recall By the way, there's the only natural M-Tank in the game, and you actually want to start the screen on the left, because otherwise the enemy from Galaxy Man stage will try to drag you right into those spikes, as I was saying. My first playthrough, I basically used all Tornado Blow before I needed to use it all, if that makes sense. Like, before the last platform that I needed to use Tornado Blow on, I had used up the last ammo for it, and there was no weapon capsule in sight. But that was also me being a dumb 11-year-old. Oh, Jesus Christ. Time isn't real. I know I said it back in part 1, but wow. Mind you, I'm kind of surprised that it took this long to get Mega Man 9 and 10 on Steam, given their places on the Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, WiiWare stuff. Because I feel like these are games that would be right at home on Steam nowadays, given the, and I don't want to say prominence of, but the amount of very good kind of nostalgia pixel platformers and such like that. Mind you, that's also modern conventions with the way the gaming market has evolved, speaking for me, so, Either way, the boss of Wily 3 is a devil. Of all the things to bring back, a devil, really? The Twin Devil is probably one of the least aggressive devils in the series, though. It actually doesn't outright attack you. The only attack it has is splitting up its orange and green halves, trying to put the other half together. Essentially, the green and orange are swapping places one block at a time, and the eye, which is what you need to damage, does eventually switch bodies. The black hole bomb is the weakness of it, and I'm speeding up this fight because I believe if you hit it every time with black hole bomb, it'll take either 4 or 5 cycles. I forget which. It'll take longer if you just use the Mega Buster, obviously, but that's about how long it takes with the black hole bomb. You might be able to hit it twice in one cycle. I'm not sure. I've never tried it. I always just try to go for the safe one. Honestly, though, comparatively, the Twin Devil has its annoyances, yes, but it's not the Yellow Devil from Mega Man 1. It's not the X5 Shadow Devil. It's not the worst devil in the series by a long shot. Very annoying at times, but doable. And with that, we're on to Wily 4. And as the match screen suggests, since we're going to a skull, you probably can guess what that means. We're getting towards Endgame, we've taken care of most of the normal bosses, they're giving us weapon energy right at the start. It's time for our usual boss rush stage. We also have these red lasers. Those who watched the special stage will recognize these. These are only blocked by Concrete Shot. A bit annoying to put these right before the boss rush that needs Concrete Shot for Galaxy Man. But at the same time, Galaxy Man's easy enough of a boss to take out with just the Mega Buster, so I guess it doesn't really matter that much. Plus, I do have an M-Tank just to restore all my weapons in the case I need to. Also, I don't really hear this song talked about all that much. This is a very interesting song. It almost tries to be more atmospheric than catchy for Mega Man song, which is a bit different of a approach, and I like that. I'm not sure what I prefer when it comes to boss rush stages, honestly. I'm not sure if I prefer them to have a bit of a stage before the boss rush, or if I just want it to be just the straight up boss rush. I guess it depends on the game and series, I guess. Like, X series, I don't mind if there's a bit of a stage before it. Classic, I feel like it should just be the actual boss rush. I guess it depends on thing. That's not rushed yet. There we go. But with that, let's get on. Make sure all my weapons are as high as they can. Get on what I thought was the first boss's weakness. And let's hit that music, shall we? Have I mentioned how good Shovel Knight's soundtrack is? Because it's really good. Either way, it's time for our 9th Wily Machine battle. Wily Machine 9 actually starts off a bit different than most. We actually can't damage it ourselves, no matter what we try to do. Instead, the exit shoots out. We need to have make contact with the Wily Machine's jaw on its third bounce. Essentially, the egg gets slightly more cracked every time it makes contact with the machine itself, and you need to have the third time be on the jaw itself, otherwise you're not going to damage it. This could actually take some getting used to with the timing to actually make it bounce into the jaw. My first playthrough, I know it made contact with the foot more than anything. But with enough practice, it actually isn't too bad. Usually it should take you maybe a life worth, maybe, at least in terms of like how much damage you'd be taking normally. Either way, it's easy enough to get used to. Phase 2, I actually need to use the M-Take for because Phase 2 is weak against the concrete shot. And Phase 2 has a few more attacks. The first attack it has is one it tends to use universally. It'll cause little fireballs to spawn out of its mouth in this weird, really kind of hard to dodge arc pattern. It can also ram into the screen, however, it won't go all the way. I believe concrete shot is supposed to be able to gunk up the mouth, but I've never been able to get that to work. Its final attack is that it'll do a bit of a, well, slam attack right out of like Mega Man 5 or 6. As long as you are good at timing your concrete shot and don't waste your ammo all at once, it's not a very hard fight. The damage is another thing entirely, but it's doable. Phase 3, which is our Wily capsule for the game, is weak against Plug Ball. The Hornet Chaser is also a very good option here. Like a few past Wily capsules, it likes to fade in and out of existence. The Plug Ball can only damage it when it's lower on the screen, but when it's higher, that's when you want to use Hornet Chaser, because then you can hit him wherever he's going next. The blue balls of death that are back from Mega Man 7 and such are probably actually his easy attack to dodge, but don't do the way you're supposed to dodge it. You can dodge just by standing directly in the middle of them all, I believe jumping. The other 3/6 electric ball attack, I'm actually not entirely sure how to dodge consistently. I know there's a way to do it, I'm just not aware of it. Compared to previous Wily Machine and Capsule fights, this one has its annoyances, like getting used to the egg timing, but otherwise, it's not that bad. Another memory chip. Interesting. And actually, believe it or not, for once, that's actually game. We don't have a secret stage after that. Also, hi, bass program in the background. Please forgive me! I want you to see something, Wily. This is where you first went wrong. Then this time. And 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 this time. Fun fact, these are actually all the previous Mega Man game final areas, 1 through 8 and in base. And the color scheme that Mega Man's using is actually the weakness. Like you can see the Elect Beam in the top left, Pharaoh Shot beneath that, Spring Man's Weapon beneath that. A lot of detail there. Mega Man 5's is blue because of beat. Not sure why N-Base is blue, though. You beat me again! Mega Man, I should tell you. There was something I was hiding from you. What is it? Dr. Light was taken away by the police, was he not? That wasn't a real officer. It was a fake police robot I created. Dr. Light's in the next room, but he fell ill, so he's sleeping now. You have to hurry and get him to a hospital. This way. Oh, hey, fake man from the special stage. Dr. Light. Hi, Proto Man. You're a fool, Mega Man. It's a trap. That's the Dr. Light robot Wily used to make that fake video. It may be. But if that's the real Dr. Light, then I have to help him. Naive as always. Do what you want, then. I'm not shocked, ironically. So long, Mega Man. You'll be destroyed along with this castle. I'm glad that wasn't Dr. Light, but that poor robot. Looks like you need my help. Again. Mega Man has once again put a stop to Dr. Wily's evil plans. Dr. Light was found to be innocent of all wrongdoing and was able to return to his laboratory. The future holds the promise of peace for the people of Earth. Dr. Wily, however, was nowhere to be found. And that's Mega Man 9. We actually don't get much closure about what happened. Essentially, Mega Man took that memory chip we got from Wily at the end to the police, and thus the proof of was against Dr. Wily. Therefore, Light was released and obviously proven innocent. But that's Mega Man 9. This is a game my opinion on has changed over the years. When I first played it, I actually didn't like it because I thought, like a lot of people, that it was very trap-heavy in level design. But looking back, it's only really in Concrete Man stage, a bit of the special stage, and Wily 1 that's really prevalent. Honestly, I think it's actually gotten better in my eyes as time has gone by. Because I've realized how useful the weapons are, how good the level design actually is, how interesting a lot of the boss fights are. And overall, just how much of an actually good game this is. I used to rank this in like my bottom of the 10 classic Mega Man games. Well, 11 counting and base, obviously, and not counting like the other spin-offs. But nowadays, this is probably my top 5. It is a very strong game. Great music, good boss fights. Story's a bit predictable, obviously, because it's a Mega Man classic game. What are you expecting from a story in it? And overall, I think it's just a very fun game. If you want to play Mega Man 9, the original version is on the Wii, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, as well as mobile phones. Notable, I think the Wii version is no longer available because I think by the time this gets uploaded, the Wii shop has finally shut down. And then it's also on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and Nintendo Switch, soon, for me at least, through Legacy Collection 2. Notable, though, if I recall correctly for the Switch version, Legacy Collection 2 on the 1+2 bundle is a digital download, not physical, so for those who are looking forward to that, yeah. Also, we get these cute little images of all 8 Robot Masters, showing that they're alive and well still. Which, honestly, in a way, kind of reminds me of Mega Man Powered Up due to the way that game will work when we eventually get to that. Mega Man 9, I think, is an overall very charming game. I still think between the two modern 8-bit games for the classic series, as weird as that sounds, I think I prefer 10, but 9 is still very strong. Next up, when I get to the Mega Man series again, we're probably going to be doing 10, because I want to be ready to do 11. However, I also might do Powered Up just to get either of those games out of the way before 11, because, oh, I'm looking forward to 11. And if the game gets canceled by the time this gets uploaded, I'm going to slap myself in the goddamn face. The extra modes, I'm not going to be showing off otherwise than what I showed off last part. Proto Man mode, I've basically described everything there is about it. There's nothing really unique aside from Proto Man's playstyle. Hero and Superhero mode are just minor level design and enemy layout changes, obviously. So Mega Man 9, as far as I'm considered, is done. I'm actually very proud of this run, too, because as we're going to see, I actually got a couple more in-game challenge achievements done before we finish off. One of them in particular I'm actually very proud of. But yeah, I'm glad to see that 10 years later, I've grown to really like this game, because I don't like disliking Mega Man games. That's another one of the reasons I actually really dislike X7 over X6, because I can see some of the good qualities in X6. I can't find any in 7. Also, I wonder why Tornado Man gets to be with Mega Man of all reasons. Maybe it's because he looks like Harpuya. But yeah, 9's a good game. And now I believe I unlock the Jitterbug achievement, which is beating the game in less than an hour. Almost Invincible, which is beating the game without continuing. And Air Shoes, which is beating the game without dying to a pit. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next Let's Play, whatever that may be. See you guys then.